Welcome to Tunnel Vision. I'm your host, Riley Sager, here with Ryan Abraham and Connor Morrissette. Tunnel Vision, sponsored by USCFootball.com. Yep, there they are. And we are breaking down USC's road win against Nebraska, 21-17. A lot to get into, but guys, how you doing?
Doing all right. It was just traveled back. It's the last multi-time zone road trip we're going to take, at least for the regular season. So it's a lot, like coming back, but we both got back this morning. It's a lot. We're less than 48 hours and stuff, but yeah, the really important result, you needed to get a win. Wasn't the prettiest in the world, but sometimes you just got to win. And much better position being 6-2 than 5-3.
Certainly. I'm doing well, Riley. How are you?
Good. Happy Halloween weekend.
Hello weekend. We should have got you a chance to dress up too.
I should have. Oh, well.
Next year.
I can come in one of these shows with, like holiday outfit.
Oh, yeah. We learned that Riley's already put up her Christmas tree. So
yeah. It's that time of the year.
In the spirit. Yeah, but it's great. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook.
Leave your comments. Call 512-4-TUNNEL. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
Talk to you live. Yes, the YouTube comments are now working. I can see them.
Oh, nice.
I don't have to dig for them anymore. So YouTube and Facebook, drop them in there. I will highlight them, and we will try to get to them at the end of the show.
Yeah, say some funny stuff, and she can put them up on the screen. You know? Make fun of Connor, make fun of me. If you make fun of Riley, it's probably not going to.
Then I'm not going to put it up there.
Yeah, she can do that.
Yeah. So USC road win. It was a blackout for Nebraska, which it looked crazy on TV. How was that like in person?
I was really impressed. I mean, they had the field painted black.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the band had black uniforms, like the cheer, like everything. And I mean, just about everybody in the stadium was wearing black. So they took this very seriously, and it was impressive. And I was reading Chris's Ghost Notes, and there were some traditional Nebraska fans that don't like it. They're just selling merchandise and stuff, but a lot of people like it, and it's not like I can't imagine something like this happening in LA, no matter what it would be for. Like, there's no way you're going to get everybody to do it. It seemed like everybody did it, and it was cold and it was loud and crazy environment. But yeah, I thought they did a really nice job with the blackout.
I did too. Really well done. Everyone in unison, and it was loud. Excuse me, especially for USC on offense in that first half. In the second half, though, I thought it was a little bit of a different story because I just feel bad for that program. They're conditioned to lose to ranked teams, and once Raiola went down and USC got a little momentum, it was still loud, obviously, but they knew what was in store for them. They had seen that movie too many times before, so the crowd wasn't as big of a factor in the second half, but in the first half, absolutely it was loud, and they just get so quiet when Nebraska goes on offense, too.
It's impressive.
It's a smart football crowd. But I think my biggest takeaway was when the going got tough, not that they gave up, but they just know what they are right now, and they're a solid team, but not a team that has success against those ranked teams, and they just kind of knew it was coming, I thought, and they were resigned to their fate.
It was funny. So the Trojan marching band, shout out to them. They were trying to play when Nebraska was on offense because literally the whole place, no one says a word. You're like, we're in church. And so the band is trying to like get people like, hey, let's make some noise, like, try to ruin the silence there. And you had the situation with Nebraska that it just seems like when you're having a ranked opponent, things are going to go poorly at the end and it's not going to work out. But USC had the same stuff on the road where, Nebraska's got the ball and we saw Minnesota do it. We saw Maryland do it, They're going to drive down the field and score on USC. So it was like one of those things, like there's two things that could break, and we expect both of them to, but one of them isn't, one of them has to, and luckily for USC, it was that side. And, the Trojans only gave up 3 points in the second half. Certainly, Dylan Raiola getting hurt was a part of that. But coming into the game, I think we talked about that on Thursday, Nebraska did have one of the better pass defenses in the country. I mean, Jayden Maiava was the only quarterback in America who was averaging 10 yards per attempt. And Nebraska's defense was down at like 4.5. And it was much closer to that. It was like in that range. And even, it just seemed like, I don't know if there's something in that stadium that's like anti-throwing the football. Like, the forward pass will not survive in this stadium. But Nebraska wasn't very good at it either. Certainly when the backup quarterback came in, TJ Fleet, he didn't throw. He had 7 yards of passing on 7 attempts, so that's pretty terrible. But It was tough. Like throwing the ball, I don't know if it was cold or whatever, but both sides, and USC's really good at it, but both sides kind of struggled with that.
And Raiola had some success on that first drive, but then
Yeah.
USC's defense adjusted. With this game,
He was
Ryan,
10 of 15 for 91 yards.
and
you know,
Riley,
so,
yeah, and he's captain check down too. But that nice play to Dane Key for the touchdown. I thought the Carlos Nicholson had good coverage, and that was just a nice play by Key to open the scoring. But I want to start big picture with this game because when we were talking last week, it was one of those where it's like win at all costs, style points. Of course, they're going to matter, but just walk out of there with the win. And USC did that. They're in the college football playoff hunt in November at 6-2. They have 2 very winnable games. Not easy games, but 2 winnable games with Northwestern on the short week and then Iowa before going to Oregon. Like, now the season is really set up nicely for them. And so it was just so critical to get a victory. And on instant analysis, I probably poo-pooed the fact that they won a little bit too much because we'll get into the game. I just really didn't like some of the stuff that I saw. But the bottom line is you needed to win the game. They did win the game. And I want to give them credit for that before I piss everyone off and start complaining.
I like it when you piss people off. Yeah, no, I mean, I posted something on the Peristyle too, Riley. Just like there was so much complaining, and it's like this sucks. It was like I just call it yo. I'm like, hey, yo, they won. Like they went under a road environment. They won a game. You know, it's just one of those things where you're just like, I get it. You can complain that you didn't like this play call or why was this bad or they shouldn't have done that. Too many penalties. You know, there's a lot of stuff you can complain about, but at the end of the day, you get a win. It's on the road. You don't have to get on any more planes and go back east to go to games. And just like, okay, you're 6-2. And when ESPN does their like 3-hour like college football reveal show or whatever, that thing's terrible. But USC's going to be on it. They're going to be ranked. Like, hey, you know, like that's a significant thing. So just feel, you know, it's okay. You know, I told people, have a drink, feel good for the night, and just like, hey, got to win. Nebraska wanted that game badly. Like we were there. Like it runs the whole state. Like this is like the fact that whole stadium wore the same clothes. Like, can you imagine? Like, no, LA's not going to do that. There's no way. That there's so much passion there. They wanted to win that game so bad. They lost to USC last year. I mean, they're looking at they won 3 national championships in 4 years in the 90s. You know, not that long ago. There's a lot of people really, really wanted to win that game, no matter how. And I think USC should feel good about it. They don't have the Dodgers in the World Series going on at the same time, and like you get to root for that too. Like this is what they root for, and that's like everything is into this, and they weren't able to get the win. So I just feel good about it. Like this is okay to just say, because if I say this win was great, it doesn't mean I'm giving Lincoln Riley a pass. And I think he's the greatest coach ever. No, just enjoy the win. You're rooting for the team. Get the win. You got it. There's other stuff going on in LA. Have fun with the win, I would say.
Take what you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah, take what you can get. If they were playing at Oregon this week, I'd say, I don't know, but like this could be a building block game. I just think the second Dylan Raiola went out, and USC forced him to go out, so it's not like it was a self-inflicted thing. It was Anthony Lucas hammering him, breaking his
unfortunately out
fibula.
for the year too.
He messed him up. That leg is cooked. But when that happened, I mean, I didn't see a path for Nebraska to win, even though they were winning at that point. They had 7 freaking passing yards in the second half. The backup quarterback was ineffective. USC did a better job stopping the run, but the running game was still there a little bit for Nebraska. They could not throw the ball. And even though for as bad as that offense was for USC, they figured some things out. King Miller got going. Jayden Maiava used his legs. If you totally take out the pass, which to USC's credit they did, like I felt like USC had a really good shot to win, even though it wasn't pretty. But that to me was a situation where if Raiola had stayed in the game, like I'm not sure they win that one, and that's a what if, and you just go up against who you go up against. But that was one of the reasons I was kind of critical, because you would think that if they brought in a backup quarterback who could not throw the ball, he had 7 passing yards in the second half, 5 of 7, they just could not move the ball through the air. I think it's fair to say they should win by more than 4 points. But going back to what I said at the beginning, you just got to get the win, and that's the most important thing. That was frustrating to me, though, because they were just brutal on offense, and to USC's credit, they took advantage of it, and they won the game. Should have been by a little more, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a fair point, Connor. When Dylan was in, they had 14 points, and then when TJ came in, they had 3 more. So you do wonder, okay, if Dylan had stayed in, he was healthy, then, would USC have won? But not that this is comparable to Notre Dame, but during the Notre Dame game, it seemed like USC had all these opportunities to get ahead, and they just weren't taking them, whether it was the missed point or the missed field goal or all the penalties. And so USC could have found a way to mess it up and still lose, but they didn't. So I think that's positive for them.
It is. And the point that I'm trying to make is that I thought was the biggest differentiator in the game. It wasn't, USC started doing this, and Maiava ran a little bit, but the fact that Nebraska just didn't have a guy who could throw the ball, that changed the equation of it a little bit, and that's what ultimately how it shook out. So that was a real big piece of this that I give them full credit for the win, but I want to also bring that up because if Rail had stated, I'm not sure that they win that game.
Yeah, I mean, any athletic competition that you have, sometimes your opponent's playing really well, and you have to play really well to match. And if you play a little worse, or and sometimes your opponent's not playing that well, and then you don't play that well. And I think this was the realm we were in on Saturday night in Lincoln. It just seemed like both sides were doing stuff to USC throws the pick, and then Nebraska turns it right back over, or it looks like USC is going to get a stop, and you get pass interference call, and you get a taunting on the side. Penalties come up, and you're giving opportunities to the other side, and you have a 4th and 2, you can go for it and false start. There was just seemed to both sides were just kind of making these mistakes where Nebraska could have had. I can't believe Nebraska never got a 2-score lead. It seemed like they were in control most of this game. Mm-hmm. They weren't able to do it. And then, to Riley's point, when Raiola goes down, you didn't have a 2-score lead. You should have by that point.
Yeah.
And if you did, then maybe your backup quarterback can kind of hang on for that. But then you're trying to hang on for dear life. So it just seemed like both sides had opportunities to sort of step up and, there's a little screw up over here and there's a little screw up over here. And other games you see it where both teams are just playing at a super high level. That wasn't what I saw in this one. But, it was a tough environment for sure. It was cold. I don't know how much that impacted things. This was maybe the worst game, not turnover-wise, but just as far as completion percentage. And for Jayden Maiava, he, literally the most elite as far as every time he touches the ball, throws the ball, you're getting a first down. And there was nothing like that. You didn't see a lot of Makai Lemon. No one had more than 2 catches. There's one thing you can rely on for this USC team, and it's that mostly the passing offense. They ran the ball really well, and King Miller, MVP of the night. But it was weird to see that they just couldn't get that going. And to go 3 and out, your first 2 drives, you're averaging 1.3 punts per game, and you punt the first 2 times you get the ball. You kind of felt like, okay, something's a little weird going on tonight.
And that's what will be interesting to monitor moving forward. I don't think Northwestern has a corner good enough to match Makai Lemon like Notre Dame and Nebraska's had, but people have clearly seen what USC's put on film on offense the last couple weeks, and there's some areas where you can take advantage of them. And will Northwestern and Iowa be able to do that ahead of that Oregon game? Because if USC's offense looks the way it did against Nebraska, albeit a road game, these next 2 are at home, that will change things a little bit. They're not going to be able to sustain things. You can't complete 9 passes in most games and win. I think it was USC's worst passing performance since was it Matt Fink? Was that the quarterback?
It might have been,
way
yeah.
back when?
2018?
Yeah, something like that. So it had been a long time since a quarterback put up numbers like that. And so it's interesting to talk about where it's okay, they didn't really perform well on offense, 9 of 23, the 1 pick. He had a couple of nice rushing plays, but only 9 completions, and they win. Makai Lemon only has 2, but on the flip side, I think against a better team, you obviously can't do that, and we'll see sort of what USC offense exists here the next couple of weeks. Is it the one that we saw against Nebraska, or will they be able to get back to form and be inside the Coliseum and find their way a little bit? I think it's going to be a happy medium, but it is significant that the last 2 weeks, Lincoln Riley as a play caller has been a little bit dulled. It's not the sharpest pencil that we're used to seeing with him.
No, I think it's a good point. Yeah, and I think for the most part, this offense has been elite.
And it's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, 2 tough road games, though. This one was a little more I get it against Notre Dame, but they looked much worse than they did in the passing game against Notre Dame. And the difference, you mentioned it. I'm not sure exactly why we hadn't seen Jayden Maiava run I think only one designed run in the last couple of games leading into tonight. I think he had 10 or so. I believe there was like 10 design runs or planned runs for Maiava in this one. He did a couple in a row, and I think it helped sort of loosen things up on the defensive side for the opposition, and it could have helped a lot. I think if you did that just at all against Notre Dame, that was always a curious decision to me. But they got back to it, and I think it helped the run game. King Miller, he had a really nice game, 129 yards and a touchdown. Was efficient running the football. He ran tough, and he looked better than Brian Jackson. And maybe Brian Jackson's still coming back from the injury, but he just seems to be able to find those holes. Yeah, he finds those holes quicker, and just he's able to get through. It's almost like it's like downhill. It's not like he's like this big bruising guy, but it's like you kind of get sucked into wherever like the gap is, and he's going through there with some momentum. And a lot of times it opens up to 5, 6, 7 yard runs, and sometimes even bigger. Now he didn't break like the big ones, and I think Lincoln Riley talked about he had some opportunities to do so, but he looked good. He was able to be really effective, and when you win on first down and it's 2nd and 4 and stuff, and USC had a bunch of that. I think it helps when they got that going, but they didn't do a great job of putting their drives together. He was too much of a part of the offense when the passing game just wasn't working. But he was what really kept them together. That's why they were in the game, because of King Miller.
And on paper, that was a matchup that USC could exploit because Nebraska struggled against the run, and that's exactly what happened. So that was reassuring. Getting Elijah Page back on the offensive line was huge. The line did well. And I thought coming into this game, Ryan, I don't know if I envisioned King Miller averaging 7 yards per carry, but I did think USC would have success on the ground. The surprising thing, when we did the pregame show Thursday, we talked about how Nebraska has this really good passing defense, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be able to be replicated, but they did a really nice job. Sierra Wright did a really nice job on Mekhi Lemon, and it's not like Nebraska has a bunch of guys who are getting to the quarterback consistently. They just have some good coverage guys. So that was fun to just see a good defense in person, but USC took advantage of the matchup that they had the advantage with the running game, and that was what won them the game ultimately. So I give Lincoln Riley credit for sticking with the run. Would have been nice to use Miller a little bit more during some moments, but you got to give credit where credit's due, and that's what won them the game. Maiava's legs too, and USC got out of there with an ugly win, but a win nonetheless.
Well, let's get into offensive line. Lonnie Noah went out, and not just throughout the season, all of the shifts they've had to do between the injuries and sliding guys over, and then yesterday you get to see Elijah Page and Tobias Raymond on the left side working together. So what did you guys see from that?
Yeah, and Micah Benuelos was in street clothes, so he didn't dress. So they're sort of like you get one back and you lose another one. But Elijah Page was back, dressed for Notre Dame, but he actually started at left tackle. Seemed like he played pretty well. I know you had the PFF grades and see how those guys did.
Everyone played well.
Yeah, but Lonnie Noah going down, and then you got Kyron Miller coming in. Kalen Miller, sorry, blocking for King Miller. I got to ask King Miller after the game about that, but that was pretty cool. You got these 2 walk-on guys like being a big part of. I was like, you're like, oh, you got 2 walk-ons playing in a blackout, and one of the guys is the MVP of your team for the night. So that was pretty impressive.
That's a huge storyline from this game. The depth on USC, where you see Nebraska lose its starting quarterback, and the offense just is in the tank, can't do anything. And you see this year USC lose its 2 starting running backs, a different position, but King Miller is almost as effective as Wayman Jordan, which is crazy to say. And then Ryan Sayeri wasn't supposed to be the kicker this year, and all of a sudden he can't miss, and he's been phenomenal. And Alani Noah goes down early with either head injury or a stinger on the shoulder, something. We'll get more answers on that Tuesday. And Kalen Miller comes right in, and the best thing you can do with an offensive line replacement is not notice the guy, and I didn't notice him making any mistakes. Maybe if I watched it closer here or there, something would have happened, but he was phenomenal. So the fact that USC, to Lincoln Riley and to all the assistant coaches' credit, in a game like this where you need all hands on deck, the fact that some of those hands are guys that at the beginning of the season we didn't think were going to play a lick this year, and they're, like you said, the MVP. I give the staff and the program a lot of credit, because we see across college football, if you have an injury at a key spot, then that can sink you, and that happened to Nebraska. I think if Maiava had gotten hurt, like Hassan Longstreet would obviously be better than what we saw at Nebraska's quarterback spot. The fact that USC has a lot of this competitive depth is significant, and that's a big reason why they're 6-2.
Yeah, they did have a few penalties, Riley, on the offensive line. I think it was 8 penalties on the night, but I think a couple false starts, and it was loud in there. I asked Miller about that, the environment, and didn't seem like it had too much of an effect on when they were trying to get the calls in. And we saw a couple times where they would kind of gather up and discuss what the play was going to be. But I thought they did a pretty good job overall. I mean, Lincoln Riley mentioned it after the game. Like, they're just every week it's a different offensive line, and there's a lot of excuses built in there. Like, yeah, you can't have this guy out and this guy out and him moved over here, and that's why you gave up like 10 sacks. Like, nope, they don't give up many sacks, and they ran the ball well. So kudos to the offensive line. No matter what group they throw out there and what order, it just seems to be like, oh, they'll just come out and play well.
Tobias Raymond, Mr. Consistent, no matter where you throw him, left guard, left tackle, right tackle. Justin Taunu'u, I don't think he's missed a game either. Those guys are younger guys. Raymond in his 3rd year, but Taunu'u in his 2nd year, and we all remember DJ Wingfield wasn't able to be eligible. Like, it really is impressive, and I think you're totally right, Ryan, because it's something that's so easy just to gloss over, like, oh, the offensive line, you just expect it to be competent, but last year they had their fair share of issues, and this year they're playing musical chairs, like you said, and it's been consistently good all year long. Outside of Notre Dame, that game was a little bit up and down, but even in that game, I felt like it was a competitive performance. It wasn't like Michigan a year ago where Miller Moss is running for his life, and you're thinking this offensive line is maybe one of the worst I've ever seen. They've been really good, and like, what does Lincoln Riley always say? You don't want your low plays to be too low. You want to stay right in the middle, and I feel like for the most part this year, those guys have done that, and that's a credit to Zach Hansen and Riley and just the development with the program.
We got a couple of calls, Riley. Unless should we do that? Or
let's do it.
Is there other stuff? I know you had like your agenda there, but
well, we can always get into it. Let's hear from the callers.
Okay, so let's go. First one up. You want to unmute? It looks like Mitchell. If this works.
How we doing, guys? Hope you guys had a good Halloween weekend.
Hello.
Good, Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to blame Raleigh, but I guess there goes the Heisman for Maiava and Micaiah Lemon. I brought up they were having great years, so that was one of the worst games I've ever seen. But we gotta say our rushing game is one of our fortes. So let's start just running the ball and reverse, and then just feed those passes in. I think the biggest test is going to be the Ducks. I'm not taking anybody for granted. And one more thing, King Miller, hope they give him a scholarship. I think that USC signed 2 7-footers for their basketball team for next year. Which say this is the first school I can remember having 2 sets of twins playing 2 different sports at the same time. I mean, that's like a rarity. Wow. It's kind of like LeBron James playing with his son.
That's a good trivia question. We'd have to look into that.
It happens sometimes, but yeah.
And I believe Raiola's brother is going to be playing next year. He's going to be a freshman. And it's unfortunate that he wasn't taken away to the hospital. Did I see the guy on the sideline? And he broke his fibula, and he's still just watching the game. He couldn't play. I guess they didn't know what injury was. It took him that long to realize it was a broken leg.
Yeah, I saw him actually, Mitch, walking up and down the sidelines. So after he went out, USC got the ball, and then there was speculation like, okay, is he going to come back in? And then you saw TJ was throwing. They had a bunch of guys who were warming him up, and Raiola was sort of by himself, kind of jogging gingerly down the sideline. Yeah, so it might be. It's probably wasn't like a compound fracture or anything, I'm assuming, but he was moving around on his own on the sideline, and before they didn't let him back in the game.
I had that one experience. I'm no football player, but at FedEx, I made one delivery, and then once I took off my shoe, it just blew up. Anyway, it was a pleasure. Thanks for taking my call, and fight on. Talk to you guys next weekend.
All right, thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. There was a lot of other things. Was there question in there?
Well, he was bummed. He was bummed about Lemon and Maiava, their Heisman candidacies in this game, taking a hit. It's unfortunate. I don't think USC will have a Heisman this year, but they're still alive for the college football playoff, which
is
has not been the case the past couple of years, so that's big.
Yeah, it's the first real clunker that we've just seen kind of from this passing offense. Like they've at least, I think against Notre Dame, that's really what was working. They took away the run. And I was surprised to see it just be that sort of like, wow, they really can't get things going. You can make some spectacular plays like that. Flea flicker was really well done. I thought, Brian Jackson, it was
he played that perfectly.
Yeah, slow developing one where you sort of like he's got to run and like it's not like you go to the line and back. It was more of a sideway. You go in parallel to the line of scrimmage. That was good, and there's some good plays. But man, I think there was a lot of man coverage, and it seemed like they were locking up guys. Even when you sort of were running some misdirection thing, and you expect a player to be open down the field, there was a defender with them, So it forced Maiava to sort of like throw into some tighter windows than what we've normally seen. I think Lincoln Riley's done a really good job of scheming guys open, and credit to Nebraska. Like there weren't a lot of dudes open that I saw. You have to go back and watch the tape again, but a lot of guys were covered.
No, and there were some drops too. It just was an ugly night for them, and we'll see if they can bounce back against Northwestern. I think they will somewhat, but like I said earlier, I do think there are some solutions out there that defenses are taking advantage of against USC, and now it's on them to adjust.
We got another call,
Alrighty.
Riley. This one looks like Nick in Dallas.
Yeah, yes. How's it going, guys? Happy Sunday.
Hey, Nick.
I was last night, I think I was going to have a heart attack flipping back and forth on the Contra game at USC. Man, fortunately, we both won. But watching this game, I know we still need to stop the run. I mean, Emmett Johnson had 165 yards rushing.
He did.
And I was also watching Liner made a comment too about the game. It was an ugly win. I mean, everything's not going to be peaches and cream every game. It's not going to be smooth. Every year, there's always that one game where, I hate to use the term off night, but a win is a win. We'll take it. I mean, I think we're coming together as a team. And I know the receiving corps, they had an ugly game. Billard, he came through, and I think Maiava had it just a little bit though, in the second half. And it's unfortunate the quarterback for Nebraska got hurt, but it is what it is, and just take the W. And let's not take anything for granted moving forward with these games prior to Oregon, because Northwestern's a better team, in my opinion, than what the record indicates. As is Iowa's going to be a timeout because their coach is the all-time winningest coach, I think, in the conference, if I'm not mistaken, or I think for the school, for a reason. And, we're coming together, but let's just, move forward and, take a game at a time. And Lincoln has us going in the right direction, this being his fourth year. And, D'Anthony Lynn's got us going on well with the defense. And, we're doing good. And let's just not get ahead of ourselves and just take one game at a time. And I think we're going to end up the season a good now. Now, if we make the playoffs or not, that, remains to be seen. I mean, hopefully we'll do it, but, we'll see. But I just wanted to comment that, we're going in the right direction, and that, things will take its course. And let's get ready for Northwestern next Friday night and fight on.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
I promise you this, Nick. We're going to take tunnel vision one game at a time. We're going to preview one. We're not going to start previewing Oregon. We're going to stick to the guns. We're going to talk about Nebraska today. We'll preview Northwestern on Thursday, and then the game's on Friday, which is kind of crazy.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah, there'll be a quick turnaround for that. But yeah, I mean, as far as this is where you want to be. I wrote in the beginning of the season, talked about the beginning of the season, Nebraska being the barometer game, and I got lucky, and that ended up looking like that was the case. Like this would be completely different. There was a fork in the road, and certainly there's a lot of the other games could have gone either way, but sort of. We've been it was like par, we're sort of chalking it up until this game where you're a 6 point or whatever, or 4.5 point favorite on the road. And you need this one against a traditional power that's fired up, that they're trying to get to where, USC and Nebraska are both trying to take steps forward this year. And only one of them were going to be still in contention for the college football playoff after this game. So, yeah, it's a big step to be able to get the win in that one.
Can I be a dink for a second? Did that feel like two teams competing for the playoff?
Oh, my God, yeah. No, it didn't. But
USC is competing for the playoff.
Situationally,
and control their destiny.
It ended up being that, I think I tweeted him like, I don't know if the game was drunk, but it was kind of tipsy.
Oh, I
'cause
saw that.
Yeah, it was just like a weird one, Like that's one of those things. Like if you ever play fantasy football and like all your guys are like playing below what their projected totals were, but
happens all the time.
The guy you're playing against or the person you're playing against, like the same sort of thing is happening, and so it's like, oh, you have like your two friends are like, it's 120 to 115 over here, and you guys are 56 to 61, and you're like, what's going on? But it doesn't matter. Like that's the game you're in, And if you were playing either one of those other two people, like you would have got crushed that day. But you didn't. You're in this weird rock fight with a team that's screwed up as bad as you are, and I think that's sort of where USC was. That's not going to be how they play every time, and I know a lot of times fans are like, if you play like that, okay. Well, you don't always play like that, If you don't play like you're the Michigan game all the time, and you don't play like what you did against Nebraska all the time either. So it's just sort of like every game's a little different. It has its own like sort of DNA. That was a really weird DNA game, but you did what you needed to do to win the game.
And just look at how college football is right now. To your point, it is such a week-to-week thing. Miami has a tough time and loses to SMU, and I know Clemson's having a bad year, but Duke is able to beat them, and even Penn State gave a little bit of a scare to Ohio State, even though eventually Ohio State pulled away. So much of it that what am I trying to think of? The transitive property, like just because you do something 1 week doesn't mean that's gonna go over to the next week. And we learned that the hard way before that Illinois game, because I thought, oh man, they got waxed by Indiana. USC should go in there and have no issues, and that wasn't the case.
No.
And I do think Northwestern and Iowa can potentially challenge USC. I just have a hard time thinking those two offenses will be able to outscore USC. So the next two games, they're inside the Coliseum, and I see them going similarly to Nebraska, where eventually USC is just going to get to a certain number that the other team can't get to. And maybe this is Nick telling me not to get ahead of myself, but that's sort of how I see these next 2 weeks going, and then it all sets up for that big one in Eugene.
Yeah, we don't have to get too ahead of ourselves. But
Sorry.
Northwestern, they have 5 days off, and before Nebraska, they had a whole bye week.
Yep.
And anyone who watched the start of the game, looking at USC, both sides of the ball, they were like, it just wasn't
a good start.
You would think with the bye week that it would be more, more power out of the gate.
You're right, and I think we saw. And it's weird that had bye weeks within like a couple of weeks of each other, and USC had the bad loss to Illinois that you were a touchdown favorite on the road, didn't play very well, still had an opportunity to win, and didn't, and then coming out of the bye week like gangbusters, and just and Michigan has one Big Ten loss, and it's USC, so. That's pretty good. I mean, I think Michigan's turned into a good team. Now, their offense doesn't look great.
Yeah, they squeaked by Purdue.
Yeah, Bryce Underwood,
To their credit, they win games.
They win games, but, like, Bryce Underwood's not looking, like the best quarterback or anything. The last couple of weeks haven't been as good. But, I mean, they're winning games. I think they're 5-1 in Big Ten play. So it's one of those situations that you stepped it up out of the bye week to your, point, like, hey, they played good on defense. They played great on offense, special team. Like, all this stuff was good. Then you have that disappointing loss to Notre Dame. You can't keep that momentum going. Then you got another bye week. And you're like, okay, well, they're going to come out of this one like gangbusters. And it was like the opposite. It was like they had 4-day turnaround. You're pitching on 3 days rest or something. And it was like bad. I don't know what was going on there. But, yeah, it's a good point, Riley. Like, and a lot of the fans were complaining about that. Like, this is how you come out of the bye week. It's like instantly
I complained about it too.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's like it was not pretty.
All week, Lincoln Riley talked about how we need to start playing our best football now, and we got to keep climbing, and this is the time to put it all together and play our best ball. And then to go into halftime down 14-6 at Nebraska, they eventually won. But I was looking for a better start, and I know not every game will be Michigan. I'm not naive to think that you can just pull that out, especially on the road. But, like, that was a bad start, and that makes you a little bit nervous moving forward. And we'll see, though, because the scripts for Riley opening up these games have been really good outside of the Nebraska one. So I don't really understand what that third down play was on the first series where they had all the offensive linemen go to the right and running a jet sweep to Mekhi
We should have asked him. He probably would have called that a stupid call, too.
But there's so many examples of football where no one's perfect. You're going to have some duds. You're going to make some mistakes, and it's all about how you respond. So I bet they respond and come out better against Northwestern after this loss. But Yeah, that was certainly a cause for concern, and another reason why that game left a bad taste in my mouth, because all week we were told we're going to play our best ball now, we have it all ahead of us, and then they laid an egg to start that one.
I didn't go to practice during the week. I mean, we can't do anything except to interview players and stuff. But I saw what you guys did for Instant and the player interviews and all that, and just my vibe going into this one, I felt like after the Illinois game, they were going to come out and play well. That's just like sort of the vibe I had. I didn't have that vibe going into this one for whatever reason. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but it just sort of felt like it was too hard. I think we talked about this. It's too hard to have like a bounce back after, bad loss, bye week. Let's come back out and fire it up. It's like, can you do that again? Then you instantly go into a bad loss again, and now you're going to bye week and you got to like fire it up again. I just didn't feel like they were going to come out like play like they did against Michigan. I know it's a road game, but I don't know. That was my vibe, but I don't know if you felt the same way.
I did feel the same. I don't know if that approach works, where they kind of made that Michigan game their Super Bowl. And so can you make the Nebraska game your Super Bowl? Can you replicate that? Riley talked about the not burning the boats, burn the boats thing, where they just wanted to kind of flush some of that defensive stuff against Notre Dame. I think that was more of a teaching point. Let's flush that and go back to fundamentals and go back to basics. And they did a good job of that, because some of the runs that Nebraska had could have been bigger, but USC was better positioned. And even the ones where they didn't get Johnson down early, he wasn't breaking free for like 30, 40, 50 yards like we saw against Notre Dame. So that worked. I think they went into fine-tuning mode more than this is our season's on the line, like we need to respond. It was a little bit of a different tenor, and they won the game, so it worked.
Yeah, I would say obviously we don't know what happens behind closed doors at practice, but the vibe was a little down.
Okay.
I went to Wednesday practice, so that was defense, and it wasn't a ton of hype. Obviously, I wasn't in the practice, so I don't know. But just talking to the guys, they kind of repeated like, when we have a bye week like this, you're starting square one, going back to the fundamentals. But what does that mean? Exactly if you're saying that week in and week out.
Yeah, it didn't seem like I think it was going to be hard to do the same thing just a few weeks later. But now you're sort of like, all right, now we're in it. Like you got a game, and Lincoln Riley even joked about the Big Ten scheduling that they're going to get home at like 2 a.m. and then 5 days later play a game and stuff. Whatever, they'll be fine. But yeah, you're going to get right back into it, prep going, and you get to play. A little extra day rest going into Iowa, and one more road trip and then home. For UCLA. So it's like you can go boom, boom, boom. If you get a little momentum going, maybe you can make some kind of run there. So it was a quirky part of the schedule with like bye, game, bye. But now that's over. You get the Friday night game out of the way, and then just kind of cruise through the rest of it and see what you can do. The big one's going to be at Oregon, obviously, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, Nick.
Shotgun talked about this, how this game could potentially springboard USC to greater heights. We all were disappointed with some aspects of how that game played out, but if they can just take this and rally around it and improve, then okay, hey, remember that Nebraska game where things didn't look so great? Well, they made some changes, they won that game, they learned something, and now they're stacking wins. These next 2 weeks are huge, and like Nick the caller talked about, you can't overlook Northwestern, and you especially can't overlook Iowa, who it's going to be tough for those teams coming into the Coliseum, but their defenses are good. And if they give Maiava problems, we'll see.
Yeah.
They had Purdue, but this is just another one of knowing what it feels like to win on the road in the Big Ten. Do we have any live callers before?
No callers. One thing I wanted to mention is that going into this, Riley, Nebraska was really bad at protecting Dylan Raiola, and USC was averaging 3 sacks a game. Nebraska's giving up almost 4, and they give up 9 to Minnesota on the road, and they came out and just were I think they were trying to avoid him getting hit as much as possible. Now, the one time he did get hit, he got hurt, and he's out for the season.
He held on to the ball for so long.
Yeah,
too. He didn't listen to the game plan on that one.
But that was like one of the only times he literally dropped.
That was
back.
the only sack USC had.
I know, but it was more, like the only time they really give an opportunity. If we were watching this, they were running the ball. Emmett Johnson had a really nice night. I mean, averaging almost 6 yards a carry, 165 yards. But when they were throwing the ball, it was like this really quick stuff. He wasn't like dropping back and looking around. It was just and like the sideline stuff were all these back shoulder throws. And I like the car. I'm like, is everything like a back shoulder thing? And like, it's just because it's just more of you're not like waiting for a guy to get open. He's running
and
down.
it's a gimmicky offense. That's one of the most gimmicky offenses I've ever seen.
So it was weird. So I'm not going to fault the defensive line. The game plan for Nebraska was
our offensive line is effing terrible.
So
don't screw this
yeah.
up. And what happens third quarter? They screw it
the
up.
one time you do get sacked, and it was devastating. Sack, fumble, with momentum going in. After USC just turned the ball over, and there was sort of lights out after that. But yeah, that was a weird one. Like where I thought USC would get more sacks, and Nebraska game planned against it. It didn't end up working, but they prevented a bunch of sacks from happening. But the one that did was crushing.
If you're tuning in now, we're live on YouTube and Facebook, so drop your comments, drop your questions. I'll try to get to them. Live callers, 5124-TUNNEL. Call in. Ryan, you read my mind because I was going to ask you guys about the defense.
Oh, okay.
Just this game compared to all the problems that USC has seen on the defense this season.
So Lincoln Riley was praising the defense, but they did get some stop. They got some stops. Now, yes, you had a backup quarterback in and stuff, but to me, it's kind of like, styles make fights or whatever. Like this was just more of this wasn't an offensive type of game. This was more of like a rock fight and try not to make a mistake. No one's super dynamic in the passing game. Both teams were effective, like running the football. But after that opening drive, I thought USC's defense was really effective. They had a couple penalties that led to the next touchdown. But after that, and it would be interesting to see if Raiola was able to play the entirety of the second half. There was pressure on the defense because they were behind most of the game, and the USC offense wasn't doing much of anything. So I thought they played better, but it was one of those things where it just the offenses weren't pushing each other. Where it's like you were going, they weren't. Sometimes it's just like if that the other team gets the ball, they're going to score. It wasn't a game like that. It was more like field position and punting and stuff. But I thought they did play better, especially considering they didn't have like a USC offensive line. But if USC's offense started scoring points, I bet you we would see something different from Nebraska too. But it seems like when both teams are in like the slog, they're not pushing the envelope as far as the offense goes. But I think that made things look better for USC's defense.
They played better, and then in the second half, they really buckled down, which was great to see, especially against the run. The quarterback changed that game, or the quarterback injury. But in the first half, like they were, I'd say okay, giving up the 14 to Nebraska. That would have put them on pace for 28. That's probably not where you want to allow Nebraska to be. Nebraska was 4 of 6 on third down in the first half. In the second half, they were 1 of 6. So when I'm talking about the defensive performance, I look more at the first half, just when Nebraska was at full strength for stuff we can take away moving forward. It was definitely better than Notre Dame, but I also think Nebraska's offensive line in particular isn't anywhere near Notre Dame. So it was solid. And then I'm sorry, I don't give USC too much credit for that second half because they were so one-dimensional. They couldn't throw the ball, Nebraska. I just have a hard time saying, oh, this is going to stick. This is something that we can rely on the rest of the way. I just don't see it that way. And at the end, when Nebraska had a chance to potentially win the game on that last drive, like, what did you think? Did you think there was any shot in hell they were going to march down the field and score a touchdown? I see people comparing it to Michigan. I think it's night and day different from what happened a year ago against Michigan. Michigan had better running backs last year. They had a better offensive line. It's similar to the fact that they were a one-dimensional offense, but that to me wasn't a similar spot. And then you see the running back trip over the quarterback's foot on the fourth down play to end the game. That's kind of the sum of the second half for them. Like I didn't think there was a shot in hell they were marching down the field and getting a touchdown.
I thought there was an opportunity. I mean, like Emmett Johnson's really good, running back. They were, you could have seen him break off a big one. Now, he didn't. He had a lot of effective runs.
But they didn't break off a big one the whole game.
They did it, yeah. And Michigan did. But I see the similarities. Like, there was only one way for Michigan to win. It was, like, break off some big runs, and they did. USC, to their credit, didn't allow those big runs to get broke up. Now, they were super effective running the football, and, Raiola was just dumping it off. when he was in there. But once, he was out, there just wasn't a lot of opportunities in the passing game. So I get the similarities to the Michigan game, but that's how you would have had to lose it, where they're not throwing the ball. You have to give up a big play on the ground. I thought, if anything, it would be like a quarterback run that they gave up a big one. He had some effective runs in that one. But
the problem was with Latif that's all he had. So
yes,
they were ready for it. Johnson's longest run was 23 yards, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, and either side, King Miller, what did he have, like a 15-yarder?
His longest was 16.
16, yeah.
But, or 17. Or no, that was Maiava. Miller's longest was 16. But look at USC, 10, 15, 13, 16, 15, 11.
He had a bunch
17,
of really
16,
good chunk
16,
ones.
13. Yeah. And when you get those, that's enough.
Yeah, but there wasn't like the 60-yarder that sort of skews the, But I thought, neither running back to have anything more than like a 25-yard run, and they still were over 100 yards, like that means like most of these carries were pretty effective. So I thought they could have moved the ball down the field with some effective run game and maybe the quarterback taking off and running a little bit. But just tripping on 4th and 1, that wasn't good. And it just situational football too. Like when you're trying to 2-minute sort of drill thing, and you're not going to be throwing the ball, or you're throwing dump offs. Like you can't, like you have to at least take some shots down the field, at least you stop the clock or whatever.
And at least with Michigan, Alex Orji was not a good quarterback, but like he was the guy all week, and they had the game plan for him. Like TJ Latif just was not ready for that one, and that's not his fault. He was the backup. He didn't expect to play. It's a little bit of a different situation for me.
Yeah.
Should we get into some questions?
Yeah, let's do it, Riley.
All right, let's see what we've got here.
How's Sammy Darnold doing? Did he throw an
I think
incomplete?
he threw
So
a pick,
someone in the
but
comments did say that first
He
incomplete.
threw a pick? Yeah.
I don't know what pick,
my
but
buddy said he threw a pick, but it's 38-7. He's doing just fine. That first half will go down as an all-timer.
Yeah,
Alright.
he didn't throw an incompletion in the first half, had 4 touchdowns, so it's pretty good.
oh, let's see here. Now we can get the YouTube comments up.
Yes, I love it.
Chris Delson, which is more true about the USC defense? They started way too flat in the first half for coming off a bye week, or the defense did a good job adjusting in the second half? You guys kind of already touched about the defense, but
They definitely did a good job adjusting in the second half because they needed to stop the run, and for the most part they did. So they started flat, but like the third down, the touchdown on the first series for Nebraska was on a third down, and DeCarlos Nicholson played it really well, and that was just a nice play by the receiver, and Raiola made a good throw. On the margins, USC probably should have allowed 3 points on that opening drive. So I have a hard time like hammering them for
It was a really good play. It
slow
was a really
start.
good play,
And it was
yeah.
3rd and 9, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's when you just throw your hands in the air, you tip your cap, and you move on. You're not going to make all those plays. If someone was wide open and it was a coverage bust, would be like, oh, man, here we go again. So I didn't have a huge problem with the start just because of how it finished, where I did think USC did enough to bend but not break, but Nebraska just made a nice play.
So California question: why is Keyshawn Silver not playing?
He started.
Yeah.
He played more than I think he has in a long time. So I can pull up the.
I don't know. Yeah, the
numbers
whole
for him.
defensive line rotation, I'm not really sure. It seemed that changes a bunch too, like the offensive line. But he ended up getting the start in this one.
He played 34 snaps. He played 37 against Notre Dame. So he's in the mid-30s. But before that, he was 19, 21, 16, 28, 29, 14. Maybe the question is just about in general, why is he not out there? It's just because it's a unfortunate reality. He's just kind of like a depth piece in there. He's not a real difference maker. He's a solid player, a nice addition, but when you're the number 1 rated transfer in the middle on our company rankings, you expect a little more, and he just hasn't been that.
Yeah.
Justin Garrett question: I might be wrong, but as a unit, it feels like the wide receivers have struggled getting separation this season. Do you all agree? Thankfully, we've utilized our tight ends better in the pass game this year.
I mean, Makai Lemon's really good at getting separation, but I think he had struggled a little bit in this one. Jacoby Lane, it depends, a little bit. He's had some drops, but there's a big catch radius there. Maybe it's better vertical than like some of the wider stuff that we've seen go to him. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tanook Hines has got some separation at times, but Nebraska. This is a game that just Nebraska was locking guys up more for whatever reason. So they did a really nice job, and I didn't see USC adjust too much in the second half, but I would credit Nebraska in this one. They took away a lot of stuff that other people couldn't take away.
Lane isn't a great separator. He's more of a contested guy. And
Yeah.
he had a tough game, which is why we saw Jaden Richardson more, and he's not exactly a separator. Tunick Hines, though, and Mekhi Lemon more so are, and there were times, especially Hines on that big third down play after the missed field goal, and then Maiava took off twice to score. That third down play was one of the key plays in the game, and Hines got some good separation from the defensive back. So I think sometimes when USC plays those early opponents and guys are just running wide open all the time, that can kind of skew just how you think the offense will be. And Riley, to his credit, like against Illinois, he schemed some guys wide open too. But as the year goes on, more film is out on you. You just don't have as many options. It's just going to get tougher to get separation against better defenses, and I think that's part of it too. But Lemon and Hines are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Jasper Smith, question, if Alani Noah is out for Northwestern and Micah Banuelos is out, who are the backup interior O-linemen if Miller or Raymond get hurt?
Hayden Treater would be next at either spot.
Yeah, so it's getting a little
But he might be good too. I kind of like him too.
yeah.
It's crazy how much depth they have when I did not think they had any. That
Yeah.
was a big miss on my end.
Connor, you liked him in the spring, right? When we were doing.
Yeah, he had a nice scrimmage, and he's a guy who I think could play next year. It'll all depend on who comes back, but if
You might get O'Connor back too.
yeah, but if someone moves on or transfers, you never know. But I think Treater could be a starter next year if it all works out.
Mark 97, what did DeCarlos even do to get that flag? Replay looked harmless.
Okay, this is something that you had to be in the stadium to see. His thing was he had been warned earlier to knock off the talking, and he didn't knock it off, which it doesn't look like much, but I give the officials credit. They said, hey, stop, and he didn't stop, and that was what caused the flag. It sounds like the broadcast didn't really explain that, and that's hard to catch, but
Yeah.
I was watching him, and the ref said stop, and then he didn't stop, and then flag.
Yeah, I think Chris in shotgun. You're right there.
So in the face.
He's getting so excited.
Good blooper.
I think Chris and shotgun. They're on the sidelines, and they had we were talking about in the car or something. I think where it's just like that. There was sort of an issue. It's not the first time that he's done that, so it might have been like even like, hey, watch this guy. He talks crap to the sidelines and stuff. But if you get a warning, then you really just have to like back off. So
And
yeah.
isn't that the worst though? When I see the people in the chat, Mark said thank you for asking the question, Mark, because it's a good one. When you're watching on TV and you're just so helpless because it's like our guy didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Where's the
what's going on?
explanation?
Yeah.
So that's the rare case where there actually is an explanation, because sometimes we see flags happen and no one knows anything.
All right, Facebook comment from Thomas. Riley32 in Bossman. I feel like I need a nickname now. Are you concerned about Maiava's decision making? Do you attribute the shakiness to the level of competition? Why is he so prone to the growing number of bad interceptions and panicked intentional grounding penalties? Thanks for all your work.
I mean, he's been really good. Like he had a bad game. Like
But I'm a little concerned about him.
Yeah.
It's going in the wrong direction a little bit. If he has another clunker, then I think you got to sound the alarm.
He literally was the only player in the country 10 yards an attempt. Like the only quarterback in the country heading into this game, and had a crappy game, terrible game. But yes, I mean, he made some really good throws against Notre Dame, and there were some, he had the 2 picks there. But
he was off though last night.
Yeah, there was definitely something not, and I don't know if it was the cold or whatever, but I don't know, Thomas. Like I'm not going to judge him. Like just you watch this game, you're like, man, he's a terrible quarterback. Like, well, he was like leading the nation and all this stuff, like going into the game. Like, I'm sorry, he did have a bad game. Now, if it's going the wrong direction, and it was more of he was peaking early and now it's like going downhill. Yeah, but I want to see a couple games in a row where it's just like he was not effective in this one.
He's been a little more panicky than I would like, just based on what he did earlier in the year. And if he can fix that, then he'll be fine. The Notre Dame game, he was panicky at the end, but they were down 2 scores, so I understand that. That pick against Nebraska, that's looked like last year's Maiava, which, to Maiava's credit, he did not look like last year's Maiava from week 1 to pretty much week 8. So if that continues, I think it's more of a cause for concern. But let's see if he can bounce back.
I think we got a super chat. Did you see that? I don't know.
Sorry, I'm in the depths of the comments.
That's
here.
okay.
Super chat. Hang on.
Oh, yes.
From GS7585. I lost it. Oh, okay. $9.99. Fight on. Ryan's jacket is now 2-0.
2-0 in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Yes, in
Thank
Big
you
Ten play.
for a comment.
If you don't know, yes, it was just kind of a bit that started with Purdue. We look at the, we're Southern California people. Look at the weather. It said 85 and sunny. I didn't even bring a long sleeve anything to Purdue. We get there and it's like, now it's good. And there was a 3-hour storm delay, lightning delay. We were eating breakfast at Cracker Barrel, and they have like a country store in the, in the
country
front.
store.
Yeah, it's like a country store. It's part of the thing. And I was like getting cold, like it was, and it was going to rain, and I didn't even have, like I said, I didn't even have the long sleeves with me. Probably dumb, but whatever. 85 and sunny, I don't need long sleeves. I didn't check it within the last 24 hours, and Midwestern weather changed. So I look inside. I went in, I came back out. I almost bought this jacket. I didn't. We're waiting for our Uber or whatever, and I was like, screw it. I go in. It's like an $80 jacket, not that expensive. The picture might be in there. You could see the, but it was like it doesn't say Cracker Barrel or anything on it. It was just like a nice, decent.
I
It
got
was like
it.
a decent jacket, and I was like, okay. And
Look at that handsome man.
for like $80, and I'm like, all right, I'll buy the jacket. And then the USC won the road game, so like, all right, we gotta like keep it going. So I didn't bring it to Illinois because it was warm, so I didn't need it.
You messed up.
I
They
should have
would've
brought
won.
it. But I'll bring it to Oregon. I did bring it to. I brought it to Notre Dame, and it got all wet. It's not a good rain jacket. It's like a suede thing or something. But
I was fully expecting like a pancake sweatshirt or something.
no,
No, it's a real jacket.
it's an actual jacket that you bought. I bought in Cracker Barrel.
The country store.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, it's 2-0
2-0.
in Big Ten play.
Yes.
Okay, I lost my comment. I'm gonna find it. But it was someone asking about injuries, and I got it.
There you go, Riley.
Douglas Doodle Dude.
That's a funny.
Aren't there new anti-gambling laws where injuries have to be disclosed? So how does that work with the injuries?
It's tough to say exactly what's a law and what's not a law, but USC did get in trouble for when they listed Brian Jackson as out and then he played. That is why the availability reports are a thing, though, because of gambling. That's my understanding. I'm sure it's masked as like a nice gesture between the schools, but I do think there's a gambling background with that, and I don't really know like what laws the commenter's referring to. I just think that's why they're there, and that's why they exist.
Yeah, I think for the Big Ten, it's like the hour before the game is when you're getting this report. And we've seen other conferences have midweek ones and things like that. So I think you're going to probably see more of that from the Big Ten going forward. Just some transparency. And I'm curious to see where USC goes if they list more people or, you can't list.
They listed everyone this past week, which has
Yeah.
been a difference from what they usually do.
So maybe you're trying to like be compliant or whatever. But I think they listed someone like the list Brian Jackson is out because they didn't plan on playing him, but he potentially could have. So now I think they have to err on the side of if someone's an emergency play, then you can't say they're out. You just have to say they're questionable or whatever. I think, to be honest, I think they're just like, hey, but he's most likely not going to play. If he plays, it's because like 3 other dudes get hurt. And 3 other dudes got hurt, so he went in and played, but then they got fined.
Question from Andrew. We assume King is going to get a scholarship, but as far as we know, he hasn't. Do you think any schools are in the mix to lure him away from USC?
I'm sure someone will try based on how well he's playing, but
He seems
like a USC lifer. And
Yeah.
I think the reason he doesn't have a scholarship is because USC had a certain amount allotted for this year, and next year he'll certainly be on one once that clock starts. So when would that be? Maybe January?
I think it's a July thing. I think it's
July,
yeah.
okay.
So I think it's like it's
well,
changed.
let's see if someone transfers out, couldn't they add him? But
It was a head count sport for a long time, where it was just you could be on scholarship or not. Where other sports you could get partial scholarships, but now they've changed it. There's not like scholarship limits, but there's roster limits, and there's a lot. So and I asked Lincoln Riley about this like in the fall, and he was saying that they have to get to 105, but it's a gradual thing. So yeah, I think there's just like a numbers game going on, and it's not like he's not worthy or whatever. So whenever the next opportunity to, but even now, like if you're not on scholarship, like they could do a deal with House Victory or get some NIL money or whatever going on. And you have the revenue share and all that. So it's a much more complicated scheme now where it's like, oh, well, he was not on scholarship, but he's got a really nice, rev share deal. I mean, yeah. So there's all kinds of weird stuff going on now, but they're transitioning to this 105 roster limit thing, but they're in the middle of it. And like Riley said, they're in a better position than most because like a school like Nebraska would have a much bigger roster than USC. Like it's a cheaper state school and you can have more dudes that are walk-ons and just being on the team. And now a lot of those guys can't be anymore. And USC just didn't have a massive roster because it's hard to be a walk-on and pay $100,000 a year or whatever in tuition. But now you can have, give partial scholarship money to players. So it's not just like on scholarship. You can, and you can give, revenue share and all that. So there's a lot more sort of options where before it was very black and white. Head count, it went from like July to July or whatever. And that, so now it's a lot more muddled. So, yeah.
Thanks for the clarification,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I don't know how clear it is, but like that's sort of the
get
situation.
He'll get one.
Yeah,
Eventually.
Yeah, in
It's just-
theory, everyone could because of the
Yeah, if you're on the
settlement.
roster, you could be on scholarship because they can't. When they did the house settlement, you can't say. I guess if you say there's limited scholarships, then people would have got sued. So instead of saying you can only have 85 guys on scholarship or 95 or whatever, they just said your roster can only be 105. Give as many scholarships out as you want, and you do partials. Where before it was not. There was all kinds of weird rules. Now that it's not amateur, land anymore, now it's like you can kind of do whatever.
Oh, sorry. Jayden Daniels just had a nasty injury.
Oh, not good.
His arm. Hope he's okay.
Oh,
Should we do the wide shot?
we could do the wide shot. Yeah.
Wait, there we are. Yeah, we do have a TV in here, but
You can't really see it, I guess, but yeah.
okay. Low. Let's see, where'd you go? Desmond and Marcellus probably had their best games as Trojans. Desmond running downhill and attacking. Marcellus was like glue at times. Time for some home cooking on Friday night and keep building.
Yeah. Marcellus had the one PI, but otherwise made a lot of good plays. And we weren't even sure if Desmond Stevens was going to start. And he played. He graded out pretty well. And
Graded out really well. I think it was his best game so far. We'll see if they change the grades, but he was good. Even when he wasn't in the right spot, like it wasn't a killer. He made up for that. I felt like, to his credit, he took the teaching over the bye week and responded very well. And then I thought Nebraska, their game plan in the passing game, I felt like was a little arrogant, where they just thought, I don't think anything of these USC corners. We're just going to throw contested ball after contested ball at them. Our receivers are better. They'll win. Dane Key won that first one. And then there was that pass interference. But outside of that, I felt like DeCarlos Nicholson and Marcellus Williams especially did a really nice job in those situations where it wasn't like Nebraska's guys were running double moves or anything. They were just streaking down the field, and the man coverage that USC had was pretty good. So I give Marcellus Williams a lot of credit. Definitely a breakout game for him. He'll learn from that penalty, and let's see if they can build on it. One thing I think with these younger players is, it's kind of like if USC does something one week, does that mean they're going to figure it out for sure every week? I still want to give them some grace, because I do think there will still be some teaching moments, some learning moments, some ups and downs. All of a sudden, these guys won't be as consistent as Kamari Ramsey. Maybe that'll happen in the future, but they're still young. And just because they had a nice game this week, like, of course, they can build on it. But I think, like, are their struggles totally behind them? I'm not so sure.
yeah.
Just a general question. What do you guys think? USC this season, is it more of a team that, I have my answer, that plays its own football and then just kind of slightly adjusts the other teams, or just completely adapting to the situation they're in?
Are you talking about defense?
No, just USC in general.
Just the whole, both sides?
Yeah.
Well, I think offense, it's so matchup dependent. So it's all about what the opponent does. But on offense, Lincoln Riley likes what he likes.
He does his thing, yeah.
The pulling the guards on the run plays and the counter action, and just scheming the tight ends open on those plays where everyone goes in one direction and then the tight end runs the other side. Like, he has some of his favorite calls, and then I'm sure it's the same with Lynn. Defensively, he loves to play cover two. They've been going with Ramsey and Pierce and Bishop Fitzgerald a lot, and then the two corners. and they can kind of switch up defensive linemen and linebackers with that. But so they have their base stuff, but then it is really dependent on what the opponent's doing.
All right.
What was your
one
answer?
more.
What did you think?
Well, it just seems that Riley's like, we have to play USC's brand of football. And at this point, it's like we have the expectation or the potential of what that might be. But have you really seen it? It just seems like there's so many ups and downs. And, you have a couple road wins. But like my analogy last time, the deposits of the two banks, like where do you have more deposits? Is it the USC that they're all talking about? Or is it the one that's in the past? Different progress. Yes, this is a road win. Big Ten. This is something that, last year you didn't really see. So I think it just depends, but I would like USC to have more of like a structure, like this is our identity, and then we just dispute it to different teams.
I think
if that makes sense.
People agree with you about the defense. They want USC to be stiffer against the run and just kind of like what we saw against LSU last year. That's sort of what I thought the identity would be like.
Yeah.
And it's so matchup dependent, though, and things change week to week. But, everyone says get back to the Pete Carroll days anywhere, anytime, and got to be physical, and we'll beat you doing whatever you do. We're just going to do what we do. Those days might be over.
Yeah.
For everyone.
It's tough.
Question from Trojan Fight. Why do we see Alex Graham warm up with first-team defense and then get 0 snaps?
It's a great question. I just think they like Kamari Ramsey at nickel more, and I don't know why they don't use the normal defense with the ones. I'm not really sure on that because that kind of
really
got
weird.
me when Graham was back 2 weeks ago or however long ago. He might have been back against Michigan first, so 3 weeks ago. I thought because he was with that first-team defense, he was going to start and play a lot, and then that didn't happen. So that's just been something they've been doing. I'm not totally sure why they do that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still scrolling through for questions,
Okay.
but if I don't really see any more right now. So,
All right.
guys, any other things that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is coming out of the 2 bye weeks. Certainly would have liked to see USC use that bye week as like, hey, they look rested. They look like buttoned down. Every I is dotted and T is crossed. And maybe not play as well as you did against Michigan because it's on the road and the blackout and all that stuff. But, just look like, all right, these guys didn't look like they just woke up like hungover or something and like rolled out there and started to play. Like, I'm not saying the
Like
guys were
someone
hungover.
after his hole-in-one.
Yes, I was a little hungover.
Wait,
after
I think
my,
we have a picture.
I was
for
a
the
little
hole in
hungover
one.
after my hole-in-one. Yes, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. But they just sort of looked. I mean, people were commenting on it, like, what's going on? Like, Connor, we were talking about in the press box, like, there's certain things you can kind of rely on, and like those opening scripts for Lincoln Riley, like they just moved the ball, and they did it. Like, the Notre Dame one
Was really
a lot
good.
of the script didn't work because the runs weren't working. And
I didn't know where you were going with that, but it still was really good.
no, but they were able to pick it up. Like the passing game was so effective, and they had some guys make some great plays that even with those quick hitters that he likes to pop and get, and it just didn't. Those weren't working, and they were like, oh, now it's 2nd and 9 instead of 2nd and 4 or whatever. But they were still very effective, and that's a better defense, obviously, Notre Dame and those opening scripts that they scored 10 points in the first 2 drives. At Nebraska, punt, 3 and out. And so that's like what's going on here, So you wanted to see a little bit better effort, and whatever the situation was coming out of bye week, sometimes we see teams that get byes in the NFL and they look like crap. The team that before played already, and you want the extra rest, but someone's playing. Or if you're playing somebody, you have a bye week in the NCAA tournament or whatever, that team coming out of the Dayton game, like they just beat a decent team and now they got some momentum, So sometimes it works like that. So, yes, I think they did great the first bye week. I think they did shitty the second bye week. Here you are. Now you can kind of go in, just finish the season. You're just playing on a somewhat regular schedule outside of this week with the Friday game. So, yeah, I don't think that was good, but now I just like, look, there's no more whatever. You're not worried about this, worried about that. 3 or 4 games are at home, certainly some winnable games. And then if you can like fire it up for one on the road and get a win against Oregon, you could go to the college football playoff. So there's a lot ahead of you. You can't, like Nick, we're not trying to get ahead of all this stuff, but let's go out and win some games, and I think they'll be all right. But it was definitely clunky performance with that bye week.
Do you have them at 9-3 after this win? I still think 8-4. That didn't quite get me to where I needed to.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're going to play better at home. So I think it's going to be chalk. You know, there was like the Michigan game was sort of like, okay, they won that one, and then this one was if they lost to Nebraska, I thought 7-5 was on the table. But even an ugly win at Nebraska, I think you get three of the next four. So that's kind of where I am now. My initial was 8-4 initial to start the season, but now that they're at 6-2, I feel like I think 9-3 is pretty achievable. Now, you could lose any of the games. Like UCLA's won a bunch of games. Northwestern's won a bunch of games. They're way better than they were before. And Iowa's good, so you could lose all those games. Like I'm not saying, but I feel like at home they just play better. And so I think it's going to be 9-3.
I just don't trust him after that Nebraska game.
Yeah.
I see
didn't
people
trust him going
asking,
into it, yeah.
where's the other loss? I could see him drop into UCLA. That interim coach gets him fired up, and the away team in that game has won the last few. Iowa could be tough. I do think the next 2 weeks, though, I do like USC, but I don't know. I'm sticking with 8-4. That game didn't really change much for me, other than they got the road win. That was kind of the bare,
result. You needed the
bare
result.
minimum, but yeah. Oh man,
it was the bare minimum.
But hey, better than the bare. What's below the bare minimum? Better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah.
Subpar. Well, not in golf, but yeah, I think it depends what your expectation is going into the season, how you view this game, how you view any game. If you're looking at USC in August thinking, okay, they're going to be a playoff contender, and then you see a game like Nebraska and you're like, well, that was terrible, and like that's not how playoff contend teams would play. Or if you're someone who's like, okay, expecting 8-4 just so that they can hold on to the next year's recruiting class, like then you know what, a win is a win. So I think it just depends how you look at it.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's where I'm at, the second one.
college football has just a ton of parity right now.
Yeah.
Like, wait till these.
And look at all these fired coaches, too. Sorry to cut you off. USC could be in a way
way
worse
worse
spot. And I'm complaining about the performance, and I get that. They could be in a hell of a lot worse spot.
Yeah, USC needed to win that game. You do not want to be in a coaching search right now with everything that's going on. Hugh Freeze just got fired. There's going to be more. Luke Fickell's probably going to get fired. There's just a bunch more dudes that are going to be fired, and not the time you really want to be looking for a coach. And USC just needed to have a pretty good season, build on with the recruiting class coming in. Like, this is what was necessary. If you could get to 10-2 and like go to the playoff, like, and lose the first round, who cares? Like, that's amazing. But I think 9-3 would be a really good, and
Absolutely.
you can build off of that. But yeah, this is there's so much parity right now. When you see the playoff rankings are going to come out on Tuesday, everyone's flawed. Like Notre Dame's going to be in there, and you're like, they started 0-2, and like they're one of the best teams in the country, and then Miami, like all these teams have losses and blemishes, and
Notre Dame had trouble with BC, who stinks.
yeah, like everybody has like. None of these people are juggernauts outside of like Indiana and Kirk Signet, and Ohio State look really good too. But Texas is like meh. Well, then now they've won. They almost lost to South Carolina. They almost lost to Mississippi State, and then they go and they get they're now in the playoff picture again. But Ohio State struggled with them, and they've struggled with a lot of teams. So everyone has blemishes. So you can't like look at USC's blemishes and go like they're terrible. Like, look at everybody else. Like everyone has them. Like, this is parity. Like this, maybe Ohio State is like a juggernaut. Maybe Indiana is. I'm not sure. But outside of those two teams, like everyone looks like they have flaws, and that's just the way college football is. So I wouldn't be too harsh on USC's flaws because everyone's got their blemishes.
All right. That was Nebraska's recap, but in 5 days, 6 days. It's today, Sunday. Northwestern back in the Coliseum. Excited to be back there. It is Parents Weekend at USC.
Oh,
so,
is your mom coming out?
My mom will be there. Yep.
Do we get to meet Mama Sager?
Yes, Stacy Sager will be there.
All right.
My dad went to Northwestern, so a little family rivalry there.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so exciting game in the Coliseum. Kickoff time,
6.
6 p.m.
Is it 6? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, so leave, if you're working downtown, leave at like noon and you'll make it.
But yeah, so what do we have this week before then?
I'll have Harvey Hyde on tomorrow. I think they'll do a Helium Boys podcast on Tuesday. Connor and I will do ours with India on Wednesday, and then we'll do a Tunnel Vision on Thursday night, previewing the game for Friday. So that'll be our quicker preview. Go preview and then go right into the game the next night.
And basketball starts this week, too. I'll be at Galen Center tomorrow for the men's opening game, and Ahmad will be there Tuesday for the women. He'll also be there Monday. So it's officially the busy season, so buckle up.
Yep, full week ahead. But this was Tunnel Vision, Nebraska Recap, USC 21-17. I'm Riley Sager, Ryan Abraham, and Connor Morrissette. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.